Delighted to have you with us to participate and share in this year's forum with the theme of 1.4 billion heartbeats. China is a land with, is a country with a land of 9.6 million square kilometers and a population of 1.4 billion. Such a huge country is like a running wheel, which is hard to change. But once it happened, the tremendous influence would be thrown to itself and the rest of the world. 100 years ago, the May 4th movement in China called for abandoning conventional Confucianism and importing the dynamism of the West. The creation of a modern China came out by recruiting Mr. Science and Mr. Democracy. 70 years ago, the People's Republic of China was founded. China started to have a stable environment to develop and industrialize. 40 years ago, the United States and the People's Republic of China established 4 diplomatic relations, and the economic reform in China entered a new stage. Nowadays, as we can all see, the rise of China already influenced the world greatly. 1.4 billion Chinese people contributed to this miracle. China is no longer in a position of technological inferiority relative to the West, but rather has become a true peer that may have the capability to compete with the West in key fields like AI. Chinese innovative industry is now effectively contributing to the first ever evolution of technology in human history. Chinese contemporary art is presenting vibrant vigor through various forms, and the Chinese feminism movements in this internet age have had a voice heard by the world. Apparently, China is at another crossroad. What we can expect from the forthcoming change? Yesterday, we enjoyed very impressive and exciting discussion on the point of contemporary Chinese films, the Chinese approach of economic globalization, achievements and challenges of the public health in China, and women and the Chinese literature. Today, we will have 3 new panels discussion on technology, art, and feminism. We will try to answer the questions. Will China dominate the world technology and science? How to understand China via its contemporary art? And what are the challenges of the feminism movement in this digital age? In the end, we would like to express our thanks to our partners. Without their support, this forum would be impossible. We would like to thank our strategic partner, Xiyun International, and its entrepreneurship incubator, Qianxi Financial Holding, for their general support. We also would like to thank our silver partners, Savius ABP London and Wall Street Tequila. Thanks to the Chinese wine Renaissance and Panda Fine Wine. Finally, special thanks to the First Film International Festival 2019. We will start with 4 individual speeches, and my colleague Shu Yu will lead this. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Changhao, for the very kind introduction. So now we're going to begin with technology panel, and my name is Shu Yulin. I'm one of the panel director together with my colleague Steph, who you will see in a bit in the engaging panel discussion. So yes, as Changhao said, we have 4 wonderful speakers. Each of them will give you an individual talk about their background and expertise. After that, we will have the panel discussion. We reserve at least 30 minutes to open up questions from the floor. Okay, so we will start with Professor Alan Barrell. So Alan has worked in healthcare and medical research as chairman and chief executive of large multinational companies and smaller technology startups. He teaches in universities in the UK, North America, and Asia with professorships in European and Chinese universities. Alan has been honored with the Queen's Award for Enterprise Promotion in the UK and with membership as Knight First Class of the Order of the White Rose of Finland for services to education. Okay, now let's give Alan a warm welcome to open up Oxford China Forum's technology panel.
Thank you. Can we have some pictures here? Let me say, first of all, that it is not just a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you at this wonderful event, but also an honor for me to open this panel discussion, and my distinguished friends will follow me. So if I use the remote, do I? Yes. Not only have I been invited to speak to you, but what a subject. What a subject we have to discuss today. Is China the next tech leader? And what I want to do in a very short space of time is create a context for us. I'm not going to talk any detail. I want to hit some headlines so that we really get to grips with the world as it is today, and then we can enjoy the discussion of the other speakers and fit it in to the big picture. So join me in the helicopter, and we will take a broad view of things. I'm going to set the scene. Okay. You know, the world is changing. When I was 13 years old, there were 3.5 billion people on this planet. Now, there are 7.5 billion. In my lifetime, the population has doubled, and it will soon be 10 billion. You might not be able to see all the facts up here, but think about the implications of that for all of us and for technology, and how technology can contribute to the things that are going on in the world. Because we are living longer, which is very good. We had a healthcare panel yesterday, but we're not living healthier. So we need to think about how we look after ourselves, and we have to think about climate change, energy, sustainability. How will we feed all these new people? And of course, the economy of the world is changing dramatically. The shift in influence and power from the west to the east is dramatic. But let us be positive and not negative, because, as you will hear, we live in the century of science and technology, where we will have the tools to tackle these challenges. And some people are telling us that we are living in a new Renaissance age, an age of new learning. In your own country, in China, 8.5 million new graduates in 2017. So we are, in a way, well prepared, as you will hear later. So what I say is that even though there are these challenges, there is a big opportunity for entrepreneurs and business people in the world. Let's have a think about China. 40 years ago, this man did something very special. He announced the great reform and opening up. And I keep telling people in the West, don't think of the great opening up as only economic. It was a much bigger opening up. Look at all you people here. The next generation of Chinese people will be much better prepared for the world because of the great opening up of Deng Xiaoping. And let's not forget that during the period of those 40 years, 750 million people in your country have been lifted from poverty to a better life. Of course it's not perfect. Of course there are problems. Nothing like the problems we have here with the government that we don't have, because I don't think we have a government in the UK at the moment. At least you have a leader who knows where he wants to go and want you to go with him. Now look at this. I know it's the macro picture. There has never been such growth as there has been in China. Okay, of course it's moderating. You can't go on growing at 10% forever, especially if the world growth dips a bit. But this is quite extraordinary. And it is absolutely amazing growth in your country over a long period of time. And you know, something else has happened. World trade. This is a summary of world trade. Back in the 19th century, you see Britain ruled the waves, often by force, not by friendship. And the Germans and the French followed us. Then by the 1970s, the Americans, you see, have become leaders, and Japan and Germany are following. Not long after that, China is number 2, and now in trade, China is actually the number 1 nation in the world. And by 1930, we'll be far ahead if growth continues at the current rate, which we think it will. Something else is happening. We had a fascinating discussion yesterday about globalization and the Chinese economy, for those of you that were here. It was a wonderful discussion. The Chinese economy is changing. Look at this. For the first time a couple of years ago, the service sector became bigger than the manufacturing sector, and the new economy is replacing the old in China. And one of the reasons for that is technology. China leads the world, in a way, on the application of social media. There's no doubt about it. My grandson was in China for 6 weeks last year, and he did a study comparing social media in China and the West. And you are doing a great job in many ways, not only in social media. But it does mean pain. This change in the economy is not very easy for China. Now, we heard yesterday a lot of discussion about the One Belt, One Road initiative. And you know, people in the West are only just beginning to understand the importance and the impact of the One Belt, One Road. It's the greatest, in my opinion, move to encourage globalization since the very first Old Silk Road was begun in Xi'an all those centuries ago. So in a way, the BRI is repeating history, and China is leading the way. And you know, people say, well, what is the result of all of this? Be patient. This is a long-term program. Chinese policy is long-term. You don't change the world in 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years. Trillions of dollars are being invested, and 65 countries are involved. This is the background to what we're going to talk about later when we consider, is China really a tech leader? It is a fantastic program. And you know, as Mr. Xi Jinping says, the Belt and Road doesn't exclude anybody. It's for everybody. It's a globalization program, and I agree with his statement about that. Another continent, Africa. 2 billion people. 2 billion people, 28 countries. And China is really the only now developed nation that is investing much in Africa. And in Africa today, I counted up more than 1 million Chinese people, enabling the economy to develop. Yes, China gets something out of it. Of course, you have to get something out of it. But really, it's an extraordinary act of faith to invest this much money in Africa. Now, innovation. We're going to talk about innovation today a lot. People often say to me when I talk about China in the West, oh yeah, well, Chinese economy is good, they make a lot of stuff, they make a lot of money, they are very successful at business, but are they innovative? I then ask a question before I give an answer. I say, hey, look at the history books. And here we've got just a few examples of the great inventions of early China. Everything, mining, gold, printing, lots of things that we don't have time to discuss in detail, but you can read down the list and you can see more of them on the next slide. This was an age of enormous inventiveness and innovation in China while my predecessors were living in the caves. So China has historically been one of the great inventive nations in the world. Now, there have been difficult times. There have been difficult times economically. There have been difficult times politically. But in the last 40 years, I have seen, and I've been alive for the last 40 years, and a lot more than that, a lot of change has happened. And this was a headline in the newspaper which I write for quite a lot, China Daily, when they said recently, a couple of years ago, hey, China has become innovation nation. China is now into innovation. And I brought a couple of books that you may be interested to know about here, because in the West, some of us have studied the innovation in China quite a lot, and I'll leave them here for you to look at afterwards. Innovation in China as seen by Western academics, which is very, very interesting for you to know about and read about. So, I only have 1 minute left, and I will move very quickly in that 1 minute. Look at this cover from The Economist. It was in reminding us that China has just landed a spacecraft on the far side of the moon. Wow! And they say in their headline, will China be the new scientific leader? Because there is growing ascendancy in all these fields: computer science, artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning. You're going to hear more about that later on. So there is very, very much interest in where China is going in technology. And what about cooperation and collaboration? Because yesterday we heard about that. So if China does become the next tech leader, what will its attitude be? And we say that the attitude, this is the ambassador to the European Union of China saying, we want to work together. Things will be better together. You're going to hear, you're very, very fortunate to hear later from a lady from TusStar in Beijing, Tsinghua. They have just invested £200 million in our Trinity Science Park in Cambridge. This is an act of absolutely wonderful collaboration. They want to help develop new bioscience technology in Cambridge, which will benefit us, will benefit the UK, will benefit China, and will benefit the world. So when we think about collaboration, let's not talk too generally. Let's talk later about real things that are happening. They're not easy to do, but they are happening. And as Mr. Xi says, don't blame globalization for the world's problems. It's not the real problem at all. And of course, he is contending, this is another Economist cover, just to remind us, great tension between China and America. And that, of course, is because Mr. Trump says America first, and also because the seismic changes in the world economy cause people in the West to be fearful about the future. And everything gets mixed up together. America has always been the number one, and they are not going to find it easy to be the number two. So we talk about technology, we talk about advances, and it's all mixed up with geopolitics now. And that will bring us to the issue of the trade war. Well, no one ever wins them, and I hope that we can avoid a trade war. And finally, one of the subjects that we have to talk about today is Huawei. I am very proud that Huawei have their European Research Center in Cambridge. They bought a Cambridge company, and we love them. And I have a great admiration for the founder. Ren Zhengfei is one of my heroes. Huawei is a great company, there's no doubt about it, but being number one is very difficult. I talk to people from Nokia, from other companies. No one denies that Huawei is far ahead with 5G development. And that causes the West to be fearful and causes concern. And we get into this situation that we will discuss in the panel of talk about conspiracy and spies and bugs in the software. Where does the truth lie? We don't exactly know. I think that geopolitics and the fearfulness of the West maybe becoming dependent on technology from China is at the root of some of these arguments. Anyway, we will end, I will end at least, on a positive note. I very much believe that China's march to be the tech number one will maybe slowed down by some things, but it will not be stopped. I think it's inevitable. This is my opinion from the Western point of view, and I welcome it and I want to collaborate with it. And there we are with the Chinese hand and the UK hand reaching across the continents, because I believe, and I don't know how successful I'm being with this, but I tell all my students, let's create a world without borders. Let's reach across the cultural barriers and the trade barriers and work together to make the world a better place. And you know something? After Brexit, my country will need a collaboration with China more than ever. And I'm going to work on that. And I'm now looking forward to hearing a lot more about some wonderful things going on in China and real technology stories from the other members of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for the very wonderful beginning talk. Yes. Okay. Next up, we have Professor Zexiang Li. Please join me, please, on the stage. Professor Li is one of the leading researchers and teaching fellows in the Automation Technology Center at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, with his recent research focusing on the UAV control and manipulation. Outside research, Professor Li has supported various tech startups that focus on robotics and hardware innovation, including the world-leading civilian drone manufacturer DJI and X-Boat Park Incubator at Songshan Lake, Guangdong, China. Let's welcome Professor Li to share with us some of his inspiring thoughts on China's robotics sector.
On the full screen. Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, so put it on the.
Okay, thanks for the invitation. It is a great pleasure to be here, and also thank Alan for the wonderful talk. During breakfast, I had a conversation with Alan. And also in his previous speech, we learned, he told me that because of US effort, the Chinese company Huawei and also the leadership of Huawei in 5G is widely known, right? And of course, we know that how useful, beneficial of the Huawei's 5G technology to the global. And today, I'd like to share with you another development from the same place, Shenzhen, or the Greater Bay Area, on robotic technology. Okay, so that is the topic of my talk. And I will discuss from several fronts. First, I'd like to introduce you the new robotic companies that arise from Shenzhen or from the Greater Bay Area, have something very interesting. It is the integration of the different aspects from the several cities of the Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, etc. And also we are trying to making this effort more systematic so that more young people, when they have a dream, the platform will help them realize their dream. And the third is we need, of course, to reinvent our engineering or the traditional educational model so that more startups, more innovation can emerge from this effort. And also some highlights on the newly announced Greater Bay cities from this area. This is a brief advertisement for HKUST. Okay, so I'm not going to, it's a very new university, established 1991, and also you are welcome to visit the new university. And I joined HKUST after 13 years of study in the States. Okay, that was in 1992. And as a professor, of course, I do the normal things. I teach, I publish paper, supervise students, okay? And a bifurcation of my career started around 1999. The neighboring city, Shenzhen, which had a traditional ODM industry. And of course, that kind of model is not going to be sustained forever. So new technology is needed to upgrade Shenzhen's economy and the industry. But Shenzhen did not have substantial basic research and the university. So the idea Shenzhen come up with is to invite universities from Hong Kong, from Beijing, to set up operation, just like the science park that Alan mentioned, okay? So that students, professors can transfer what they learn in lab to product commercialization. And that is how I got involved in this effort. And the first startup that from my lab happened in 1999 in this program. And it was called Google Tech, okay? And we have the right spelling for the Google. And Google Tech was the first motion control company, very specialized, because to support the manufacturing industry, we need core components, core technology, such as controller. And Google Tech is now today the largest provider of motion control technology. We support over 60 different sectors, more than 2,000 customers to develop modern machine tools such as robots and the semiconductor machineries. And those are some of the products, technology. I'm not going to go into the detail. And in this process, I learned some hard lessons. Of course, for professor to start up a company on one side, the other lesson is how should we reform our education so that the students are better prepared for the innovation in real industry, not just publishing papers or getting grades. And I happen to teach a project-based learning course, for robot competition. And the students from different departments, from different years get together. They will together design, debug, and they build a number of robots. In this process, they learn collaboration, project management, and all the hard skills that they need to build a new device. And also how to use the supply chain in Shenzhen to speed up the iteration from concept to prototype and to product. And from this course, a number of students emerged to be entrepreneurs. And they founded many companies. One is DJI, of course, a leading drone company, but there are many, many more from that effort. And today, DJI is the largest drone company in the world. Last year or 2 years ago, had more than 12,000 people, and they have more than 70% of the global market on drones. Yesterday, I was in Netherlands, and I met with an agriculture university researcher. And they said, Professor Li, I have to thank you for, the drone technology. It allows farmers, not just, in Europe, in Netherlands, and also in China, in the States, to greatly improve efficiency of agriculture. And those are some other teams that have been involved, drone company, motion control company, electronic propulsion company, and etc. So a couple years ago, so that is actually the integration, that we went through using, technology students trained in Hong Kong University, and also the supply chain, the market in Shenzhen, in China, to speed up the conversion from ideas to products. And of course, this place has a nickname. It's called the Hollywood of makers. I did some comparison. The iteration speed, if you want to build a hardware, is probably 5 to 10 times faster than if you do it in Silicon Valley or elsewhere. And also 5 to 10 times cheaper, which means you can try all different ideas. Don't be afraid of failure. So then some time ago, we began to put together all the lessons we learned, mistakes we made, to build up an incubation facility so that students from Hong Kong, from mainland China, from Europe, from other places, if they have a dream, they want to build up something, they can come to this Expo Park. We will provide them with the technologies, with the supply chain, angel fund, and also mentorship that they need so that they can turn their ideas into commercial products. And of course, one thing that we all have to realize is to develop something that is not there in the marketplace. You have to follow the cycle from idea to prototype to market and iterate. And you have to iterate many, many times. Our experience is every product, more than 100 times. Dyson, we know, the first product, it took them 5,000 times. So that this is a hard job, and this place will help them to, increase their success rate and also their chances. And of course, to help them, going through the tough job, we have technology support, the supply chain, the funding support, the human talents, and everything that they need. And in 4 years, we have successfully incubated more than 50 companies. And our success rate is around 80%. For students, working on hardware, this is phenomenal. And we have to think for the ecosystem in the Greater Bay Area that allow them to do that. We have all kinds of robotic companies. And of course, we have, in this process, we try to, develop an ecosystem. This includes different kinds of chipsets, chip companies in local and also elsewhere, and also the machines and the core technology to making the consumer or the end products, and also different kinds of products as well. So this is a picture of the ecosystem that we try to build, which includes the end products for the consumers, the equipment that produce those products, the core components, and the chipsets that are utilized by the consumer and also. And in addition to that, also the talents and the accelerator program, the hardware facility, and also angel funds to help them going through. So I will take 1 minute or 2 minutes or so, from those lessons. What do we need to, do to change in the education system? Okay, that is, we are all familiar with the traditional education system, And when you go to Oxford, you go to Cambridge, you will typically, have a curriculum like this. You start with the math course, and then the engineering fundamentals, and in the final year, you have a capstone project to integrate everything together, okay? So what's wrong with this? Well, I think that is how professors teach the course, and that is how students learn from the course. They memorize, they pass the test, and they have good grades, okay? And so one of the professors at Stanford, Ed Kaya, he also studied from the similar process. And he complained that this kind of process allow you to do well in the test, answer questions by professor. But when you leave the program, you could not do anything starting from scratch. So we have to do something to change this kind of learning model. And also today we know all the value of explicit knowledge is quickly diminishing to zero. The important thing is what do you do with the knowledge, but not how you memorize the knowledge. And of course, the Sequoia, after many years of angel investment, they learned the hard way, what kind of people are innovative. They have to be young, they have to be, misfit, ambitious, learning, etc. So how are we going to reinvent our engineering education so that we produce the students have those kind of attributes, okay? So, and of course, there is a book by Tony Wagner, after lots of study, and innovators have to be curious, have to work in team, have to be able to associate different things, and also have a bias towards action and experimentation. This kind of habits actually can be trained. Okay, they are not, just born with it. So that is what a university can do, and of course, that is also the guideline for us to emphasize that knowledge is important, but not, the only part, the mindset, and also the internal motivation, right? How are we going to motivate our students, and so that they have internal motivation, right? So that's starting from play, from passion, and then you have a purpose. So that is the process that we have to follow through, so that from kindergarten to college, you go through that process. And we have been experimenting with this kind of idea and thinking by setting up graduate robotics schools and the undergraduate and graduate programs. And we learn a great deal from a new college in United States called Olin College. And they are actually transforming engineering education. So in our new program that we experimented, we recruit the students from design, mechanical, electrical, computer science, and math. In addition to their single-disciplinary training, we introduce project-based courses for them to work together to define the problem, and they also build prototypes so that they learn the real skills that are needed when they go out. So I think last minute, I will give you a couple of figures on this new Greater Bay Area program. So it consists of 9 cities in Guangdong and Hong Kong, Macau as well. And the size is 66 million population, and the GDP equivalent to that of South Korea. Okay. And of course, HKUST, now we no longer consider us as a university in Hong Kong, but a university of the Greater Bay Area. We are going to establish a new campus in Guangzhou with about 4,000 graduate students in 6 years. And also the Hong Kong government learned a great deal from mistakes in the past and now reinventing itself. We are going to initiate a 10 billion program to develop 2 clusters of centers, one in health, the other AI and robotics. And we are going to team up with world-leading universities, industry companies together to develop those technology. Okay. And also, Shenzhen is setting up 13 new universities at the same time. Okay, well, that is a tremendous effort up to this point. And I'm helping TusStar to rebuild a new program called the System Design and the Intelligent Manufacturing Institute School. And that offers a great deal of opportunity, especially for young PhD graduates. Okay. And also Dongguan is called the World Manufacturing Plant, and also a number of new programs, including new universities and the science facilities are being set up. So after all, that is all I have to say, and you can talk to me after the session. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Li, for the wonderful talk about the Great Bay Area. Okay, now next up we have Mr. Li Dahai. So Zhihu is one of the earliest Chinese question and answer platforms. Joining the team in 2015 as a partner, Mr. Li Dahai has been in charge with the advertisement, data, and algorithm sectors. And from more recently, Mr. Li has led a team to explore the power of AI to upgrade Zhihu's core services. Now, let's welcome Mr. Li to share with us his wonderful knowledge and experiences as a rising tech star entrepreneur in China.
Thank you. Thank you, Shuyu, and thanks for the invitation from the Oxford China Forum. I'm so glad to hear so many interesting stuff in the previous panels and presentations. And today, I would like to share my views to this topic as a participant of the Chinese technology industry. As the saying goes, technology is the primary productive forces. There are so many technological innovations every year that will change our lives. And there was a lot of good news also in the 2018. The multiplexed and portable nuclear acid detection platform, oh, it's so long, and the new type of photosynthesis, AI applications, and so on. All these innovations have been discussed extensively on Zhihu. Whoops. Yeah, as you may know, Zhihu is a question and answer online community in China that has collected more than 30 million questions in total. There are also many discussions in other fields, including the UK and Oxford. Especially, Zhihu has gathered more than 170,000 users from the UK. Their posts and answers about the culture and the technology in UK are available for the Chinese users. So obviously, the UK has been the tech leader since the first industrial revolution. For centuries, the UK has been one of the world's leading technological innovators. And Oxford, the greatest scientific research center in the UK with 1,000-year history, have provided a massive number of outstanding talents. Their work on science and technology benefits this country and the people all over the world. So, well, how about China? That's the topic, right? After receiving the invitation from the forum, I raised a question as same as the topic on Zhihu. As of last week, the question have received more than 300 answers and 3,000 followers. Basically, there are two consensuses. The first is China has essentially become a major tech power across the world. And the tipping point for China to be a tech leader may be in the near future. Let's show you some data. From 2008 to 2018, the Chinese researchers have published 2 million papers internationally and have been cited more than 22 million times. The numbers both ranked the second after the United States. And China is the only country that had 2-digital growth in patent application, and the country whose research funds have accounted for 20% of total in the world. In the microscope, China has made many achievements in technology, in engineering around the world. And that's why China has been called the infrastructure maniac. 基建狂魔, right? And 1 month ago, the Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau Bridge has been built. So far, it is the most difficult construction with the longest length, the highest tech, the most scientific patent, and the largest amount of investment in the world. It has been called one of the 7 wonders of the modern world by The Guardian. In the microscope, the Chinese researchers have reviewed the microstructure of the hydrogen ions for the first time, obtained the atomical images of hydrogen ions, and found the new application scenario such as ion batteries and seawater desalination. China also plays a leading role in the mobile internet applications such as mobile payments, home automation, and e-commerce. Let's have a look at a normal day of a normal Chinese person. Let's call him Jack. Not Jack Ma, all right? Jack wakes up at 7 a.m. by the intelligent robot, which also provides the weather and the music services. At 9 a.m., Jack takes the subway to work with the photomobile NFC payment. On the way to work, Jack browses Zhihu to check the fresh content he is interested in, recommended by the AI algorithm. Before arriving company at 10 a.m., the coffee ordered from one mobile app has been on his desk. And at 2 p.m., Jack suddenly remembers it is the deadline to pay the bill of the house electricity. And he opens another mobile app and spends 2 minutes to complete the payment. At 6 p.m., after work, Jack goes back home by the car hailing services. Meanwhile, the air conditioner, the water heater, and other smart home services have been well prepared in his house. As you can see, that's the one day of Jack. And what all he brings is a mobile phone. No cash, no credit card, even no keys if he uses electronic lock. With all these technological breakthroughs, China has become a well-deserved major tech power, but it still has a long way to go before becoming a real tech leader. That's the second consensus. China leads the world in digital technology, and as Professor Li said, the drone technology and the robot technology and other many application markets. But there are still gaps in the innovation ability and research on basic science compared with other tech leaders. The ability of technological innovation represents a country's potential and creativity. According to the Global Innovation Index 2018, the overall rank of China is 17, while the number was 25 2 years ago. In one word, the Chinese technological innovation ability has grown significantly, but there is still a gap compared to China's economic volume. Let's consider the medical industry as an example. The progress of medical technology is very important to the national economy and the person's livelihood. However, as of 2016, the HAQ index of China ranked the 48th among 195 countries. On the other hand, the ability of basic scientific research is the source of technology. In this core area, China is still in an early stage. One night in 2018, Pony Ma, the founder and the president of Tencent, raised a question on Zhihu. Which basic scientific breakthroughs will affect the internet industry, and what changes will be caused by the integration of industrial internet and customer internet? The question has drawn wide public attention and received more than 3,400 answers, much larger than mine. It is a strong sign that China is fully aware of the importance of the basic science. The National Development and Reform Commission of China has launched a preliminary study of the 14th five-year plan to promote the development of basic science. So that's a short answer to today's topic as a question. And at the same time, it needs to be emphasized that the technological innovation should not be restricted by the country border. The development of technology should be based on a global vision. As on the way for China to being a tech leader, China has been deepening the international exchange and the cooperation and embracing the global talents. So at present, not only the governments, but also the academical and the business committees have shown strong desire for the top technology talents. In Oxford, there are more than 800 Chinese overseas students, and the number are much larger, well, in the whole UK. All of you are the potential driver of the future technology. So we eagerly look forward to your return after graduation. There are so many opportunities and challenges in the rising China waiting for you. So thank you for your listening.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Li, for a wonderful talk. I believe all the statistics and facts on in your presentation, but there is only one thing I doubted. I don't believe an average tech worker in China, Jack, can actually go to work at 10 a.m. and finish the work by 6 p.m. I highly doubt it. But anyway, wonderful talk. So next up, finally, we have Ms. Liu Bo. Please join me on stage. Coming from a background of management, Ms. Liu has extensive experiences in finance and business. Ms. Liu's interested areas of investment range from TMT, healthcare, to energy conservation. Ms. Liu has held several personal awards, including the recent top 15 in Forbes 2018 China's Best Female Venture Capitalist. Let's welcome Ms. Liu to give us a crash course on China's tech market from an investor perspective.
Thank you very much, Shuyi, for introduction. And it's really my great honor to be here in this prestigious university, because every time I come back to university, I think of learning from others, and I really look forward to discuss with you more about future. Is this someone singing? Okay, so since time is limited and my English is limited, so let's go straight to the PPT to look at a couple of data. Although US is the #1 market in venture capital in the world, but China is growing faster and faster. And also, if you look at numbers here, in terms of the amount of investment and deals of investment is comparable. That China is, the number of China is comparable to the US market. And even if you look at the exit deals, China is much more than the US market, which means the China venture capital market is very active right now. And if you look at the second page, it's worth to mention is in the past 10 years, if you look at the venture capital market in China, you heard of e-commerce companies. And like nowadays, if the Pinduoduo is going to NASDAQ, and a lot of companies is doing a consumer market. But recent years, if you look at the yellow part, science and technology investment amount, both the amount and the deals, is growing faster and growing very quickly. The amount of the science and technology investment in China sees more than 50% of the investment, venture capital investment in China right now, which means in the future, you will look more and more science and technology company going to the public. And also, in China, if you look at venture capital, the most area of the angel investment institutes exist in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou area. Also, the western part is increasing more and more. The directions most venture capitals are looking at now is still TMT, internet, but healthcare is growing very fast and coming to people's vision. Talking about China's venture capital and China's technology, you couldn't ignore the support of China government. Like every month now, the China government is issuing new policy and upgrading the policies, both in financial support, tax reduction, a lot of environmental support in terms of the science and technology development. So, you must be very concerned about the China's deep technology directions. Here are some examples that this year people mention a lot. artificial intelligence, smart manufacturing, electric vehicle, and integrated circuit. But the last three are very, very big industry. They are supported both by China government and it's very important. This key infrastructure industry in China right now. But AI is a totally new industry based on the development of other like big data, like infrastructure, like algorithm, and a lot of applications in China as well. And here are some keywords in these industries. But since time is limited, I don't introduce more. I just take AI as example. Because here you see, especially this second picture, you can see the right line is China's releasing paper of AI. So we are the number one in terms of the paper amount of AI in China, but ranked number 3 on the impact and the influence of AI's paper. So still a lot to improve, but very, very important in the AI area in the world. And also, for the most of the investment, if you see, most of the AI investment is coming from China. These are 4 unicorns that recently developed perform very, very good in China, like Toutiao. And here today we have Zhihu, nearly the kind of a social media knowledge sharing platform, and also like Xiangtang, like Dà-Jiāng, and also some chips company like Huawei. These companies perform well, and they have done disruptive creation or innovation in China, not copy other countries, but doing what their own, and is the leader of their own industry right now. So for us, we have a very, very good foundation of some new technologies. And for TusStar, we are doing mainly early stage investment, not like very mature startups. We do very, very early stage. So in the early stage, how do you see AI? So for us, we divided AI into different pieces of work. Because if you invest it like Toutiao, you have to spend a lot of money. So for us, we spent less money, and at the very early stage, how do we do that? Because AI is a system, not like, it's a lot of part consistent. So when we depart AI into infrastructure, algorithm and data, and applications, we see much more clear in early stage investment. For example, in infrastructure, because AI needs more deep technology or faster computing ability. I don't know how to say in English, but it's, you need more in infrastructure. So we invested in the FPGA company called Huawei Keji and edge computing company called Zhihu, who can, in the future, if you can use some AI technology, you could utilize the infrastructure to better facilitate AI skills. And also in AI data and algorithms, we invested some audio, video, and also text AI companies, and they can do a lot of computing in terms of utilizing the technologies of AI. And also for AI application, which is most important, I think China has advantage in applications of in different industries of these data, which is like in healthcare, in mobile internet, and also in education. These companies are some examples that we have invested in China, and they are growing very fast. So you may ask, what is the key successful factor of early stage investment? It looks simple, because you just spend money and give it to others and make money from them. So it looks simple, listens simple, but it's very complicated. Because for early stage investment, you seek certainty out of uncertainties. So the numbers and data you get is abundant and various data from different perspectives. So you need to, how do you seek certainty out of uncertainty? So some factors are very, very certain in terms of a company growing up. For example, the technology. So for us, our strategy is focusing on very, very good and seldom people the technology can do. We focus on this kind of high technology and right people, not only great people, because great people can do a lot of things, but right people can do the right things in the right industries. And also, the timing of invest and exit is very important in terms of fund, not only creating value, but at the right time, you can get money back. It's also important. And for us, the most important thing is create an ecosystem to help the startups grow up very quickly, to give them all the resources we can get, and to connect them with the industries and great resources. So for us, every year, we look at more than 10,000 startups. And finally, we only invested less than 50. So how do we do it? And what is the key factor that we can do it? The method is you have to approach to the best people and best channels and best universities to get the technology. And also, you have to have the expertise of recognition of growth and talents. And finally, you have to connect all these resources to them to help them grow up. So here, this is the TusStar ecosystem. We're not only a fund, an investor, but also we are a service platform. We get approach to the innovation system, to the university, to the institutes of technology, and also after this collecting of innovation factors, we utilize our service platform like incubation, like education, incubation, accelerating, and finally connecting them to industries, capitalists, and also their customers. So this is a whole ecosystem we need to do for early stage investment, not only money, a lot of resources we need to think about. Thanks to the 24 years of strive of TUS Holdings, we have a really, really good reputation in the platform of technology service. So we could utilize a lot of government, industry, academic, and third-party services to help the small startups to grow up very quickly. And in TUS Holdings, we have this whole fund system, not only early stage investment, but also VC, PE, merger and acquisitions. And also we have merger and acquisitions with some industry leaders to help the startups to grow within their supply chain or industrial chain. And also, now we have about 200 service platforms all over the world. And within them, there are about 130 incubators over 70 cities all over the world. And in China, we have a very strong network to help the startups grow up. And globally, we may be the right one to choose to get connection with different startups networks. And also, here you can see a lot of activities to keep sticky with the startups, to keep this network active. So that's what we have done in terms of investing and incubation and technology service. So really, really thank you for listening and hoping if you have any ideas of startups and if you want to contact with us, you can scan this WeChat. It's a WeChat group. Anything we can discuss in it and talk about in it. And if you are an entrepreneur or a student who want to contact with us further, you can just be in it. Here is my email. contact. Thank you very much for listening.
So that's all we have for the individual talks. So now we invite Steph and our 4 speakers to be on the stage. We're gonna soon start the panel discussion.
Yeah. Thank you for your talk. Yeah. Well, to generalize, but it was yours that was very important for me to hear.
For the audience, please keep thinking about the question because we're gonna keep plenty of time for you.
I didn't give you my other card.
Oh, like for the people on the upper floor, you can come down to the ground because the question will be easy to be asked from the floor.
Hong Kong Management Association. Victor Li. I run an innovation group for senior executives from Hong Kong. I love your approach to the development of entrepreneurs. Thank you for that.
Okay, please move fast.
Only to open up these issues, but it's easy to do. But you know, yours is a unique organization. These young people should realize that TusStar is quite unusual.
其实刚才我问您那个问题，其实是因为知乎上其实
No, I mean,
现在也有
we
很
need
多
to
课
know
程
these things. I mean, I know quite a lot about what you do because of the TusStar in Cambridge, but other people don't know. It's not generally known, the extent of what you do.
学生用户看，我觉得其实是挺有价值的，是你
I mean, I think worldwide you are unique. No other university based organization I know of in the world is doing what you're doing globally. I've been to your place in Guangzhou.
是吧？所以我也找了几个就是咨询学院的学生，作为他自己的毕业设计，就是怎么个，因为基地有一批创业公司，然后也有一批学生想这样做，是吧？我们自己就是些很好的案例。
Well, and also one thing that is very clear, there was an article, another article, Economist is very good, he's very fair, and there was an article, Tsinghua is now absolutely one of the top research institutes for quality. Yeah, it's Tsinghua, but a lot of other Chinese universities haven't catch up. But you set the standard.
Okay, Steph, you can start anytime.
非常大，
有声音吗？
就再也不敢去尝试这个事情了。
再说一下。
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So everyone, can you please get seated and our panel discussion will commence soon.
声音要再大一点，声音要再大一点。
Hello, hello. Is it okay?
Can people at the back hear clearly? Okay, good.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, sure. So thank you, speakers, for your very eye-opening and inspirational speeches. And without further ado, let's jump into the panel discussion today. So is China the next tech leader? And so, just a word about translation. My colleague Shu Yu will be down there just in case any translation will be needed. So you can tell your answers in Chinese first, and then Shu Yu will give a brief summary in English. And so, shall we begin? Yes. Okay. So according to Zhihu, we have established the consensus that China is a major tech power. But I would like to trace our steps back first and examine the recent past of China's technological growth. So today, my first question to the panel is, what are the major factors that have contributed this rapid technological growth in China in the past decade? So perhaps we could start with Mr. Li.
好的，那我就用中文了啊，中文能够更好的、更精确的表达我的这个想法啊。这个非常抱歉对于这个英语的这个听众啊。我觉得这个主要的这个因素的话，主要是4点，我总结啊。第一个的话是财力，就随着中国的经济发展，那么分配到整个大学的这个研究经费其实是越来越多的。 这一点保证了我们的科学研究的一些进展。第二个呢是人力，对这个其实和前一个也相关。我们的大学教育是越来越普及，导致这个我们能够进入整个科技产业的这个人数也是越来越多，有很大的后备军。然后 很重要的一点呢是我们的这个市场。中国大家都知道，中国是一个人口大国，然后这个人口大国有个好处就是它有很统一的文化跟语言。那有了这两个以后呢，其实我们的这个任何的一些进展，它能够更好的产生规模效应，能够更好的发展起来。对，我总结大概是这么几点。
Okay. So in summary, there are 4 factors that I think. That is talents, funding, human resources, and marketing. Market. So university education becomes more easily available. So we need more funding to support talents to be supported and educated. I think those are the essential things contributing to Chinese tech development.
So from my perspective, okay, in the area of robotics, okay, so I think China, after, as Alan mentioned, the economical reform. So there are lots of OEM manufacture that being moved, transferred to China. So that allowed China to build the supply chain system. For example, 75% of the global smartphones are manufactured in China, mostly in the Greater Bay Area. So just like the British Industrial Revolution, it is very convenient, to buy components to make PCB or anything. Everything that you need is concentrated in that area. So that allowed, some of the young entrepreneurs to accelerate their effort, and as a result, you do see, emerging robotic companies, hardware companies, consumer product companies from China, and especially from the Great Bay Area. So that is one factor. The other is, as Mr. Li mentioned, the internal demand. Okay, the huge domestic market now began to become a major force. Before, we mainly rely on export market, overseas market. Now the internal market. If you look at the US development after the first industrial revolution, they were able to pick up a lot that being developed in the UK, but go beyond UK is because of the huge domestic market from the United States. So that drive the development of lots of new technologies. And of course, the investment angel fund, the government support for those efforts, in many directions, that also help making the change.
Yeah, I won't repeat what has been said, but looking again at the macro view, taking a global view, China, certainly in the last 40 years and even more recently consolidated, has had a national plan. It had a strategy. It had leadership. The government said, we are going to be a tech leader. Maybe take 20 years, 30 years, we will be. And that clear plan and the support of the government beyond the plan was very, very important. And also enabling so many people to travel the world and learn and take back information. Now, one thing I haven't told you, in 1995, I started a company in Zhuhai to take my then technology company to China. And everyone said, you're crazy, it will be difficult, they will steal your technology. Not true. It was a great success, and it wasn't too difficult. So Western companies have been able, if they had the courage, also to go to China. It's not just China coming to the world, but we have been going there. So I think the government policy has been very important. And of course, the other important thing has been education. The educational system has been dramatically developed. Amazing. I mean, my Chinese students astonish me. I'm very ashamed I don't speak much Chinese. They all speak fluent English. But they are always inquisitive. You know, Einstein told us, learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow, never stop asking the questions. And my Chinese students never stop asking me questions, and it's very difficult for me to answer them. So I think those are some of the things I would add. And of course, you heard a wonderful story, and I'm going to say there is nothing in the world that quite compares with what TusStar has done. I know there is not. There's no university base that I know of that has evolved in the way that these guys have invested all over the world. So this is China, in a way, the coherence of the national strategy, including the One Belt, One Road, is something important because it takes time. 20 years is no time at all in world history. The West is impatient, governments change. You have a very stable strategic position in China. Whatever else you think about things that are not good in your country, never forget it.
为了让大家更好理解我的想法，我还是用中文哈。我觉得从宏观的角度来讲，其实中国在过去的10几年的发展里边，还是相对来说粗放，然后在基础建设上和人口红利上释放更多的这样的市场价值。但是这个随着我们去看任何国家的一个发展，在它这个低毛利或者说低价值的这个发展阶段之后，一定是去向更高端的高毛利的或者说更具有价值的这样的一个方向去走。我觉得这是第一来讲，从宏观来讲。第二呢，中国本身的基础和底蕴还是非常在某些方面还是非常不错的，尤其是像我们做早期投资的，1年与上万个这样的就是好的人才、好的技术去打交道，这个时候你感觉到中国有一个非常强劲的后边的这个可能性因为这些人第一非常努力，第二他们接受良好的教育，第三他们这个为了中国下一代的发展具备相应的基础能力和后备的这样的一个环境，所以我觉得这些点都是让中国的科技就是在下一个阶段能发挥主要力量的一些点。但是最重要的其实就是人。当我们每天与这些年轻的优秀的人打交道的时候，你总感觉10年、20年之后，他们都是非常非常非常伟大的人。然后在这样一个伟大的时代，我觉得是非常庆幸的。
Again, in brief translation, so at the beginning, from macro level, China has been invested a lot in infrastructure and construction, and China has reached huge success in those industries. But then after a while, after those success, then we have to move to high value return sectors, and those bring us to technology. Also, in many aspects, China has strong foundation, especially from history and culture perspective. So when we look at talents, they bring us lots of possibilities for the future because they are hardworking, they think for the big picture of the country, and we think people are the essential factor.
All right, thank you, speakers. We've heard a lot of interesting ideas there, like market, education, human capital, and stealing technology. So we'll all hold off and we'll come back to that later. But right now I want to look at the recent development of Chinese tech sector. And I would like to start us off with a quick question. So how this is going to work is that I'm going to pose a question to the panel and they will have to give me an answer right away without any justification or explanation. So if you start explaining, I will cut you off. So let's start with the first quick question. Can you name me the most advanced tech sector in China currently? Let's start from this side.
AI, big data, manufacturing.
One. Okay, AI.
I will add genetics.
Genetics.
Robotics.
Robotics, definitely.
Big data.
Big data, awesome. Okay, great. So we have 2 votes for big data and AI, so maybe we'll start there first. So Mr. Li, you're an expert in AI, so maybe you can tell us a bit more of the applications of AI. So for example, how is AI used in Zhihu?
好的，还是中文啊，复杂的问题要用中文。在知乎的话，我们的 AI 技术其实是被广泛应用的，因为知乎里面其实我们的主要的场景呢，就是我们的知识的生产、分发，还有我们的讨论氛围的控制啊，在这些领域里面，我们都会广泛的引用 AI。简单的说，我举些例子，比如说在这个我们的内容生产里面，那么一个用户提出一个问题以后，这个问题哪些用户能够回答？我们是采用推荐技术，然后去判断一个用户有没有能力、有没有意愿去回答，然后再把这个问题分发给相应的用户，这是一个很重要的过程啊。这个过程其实它也会兼顾到我们的内容生产以及回答者的体验。那么除了内容被生产出来以后呢，如果一个用户他回答了一个问题，半天也没有人给他点赞或者评论，这个用户就会觉得很没有成就感，那他可能就不会再写了。对，所以内容的分发，它是一个要兼顾我们的内容回答者和知乎的阅读者之间的平衡的一件事情。对，那所以它是一个比较复杂的推荐系统，这里面就会涉及到比较多的很多细节的算法的优化和改进。那么还有一点非常重要的是我们的讨论氛围。大家知道，知乎是一个我们讲求理性、中立、客观的讨论氛围的这样一个场所。那么我们非常禁止辱骂性的，还有就是不认真讨论问题的这些评论。所以在知乎我们有一个专门的团队去做内容质量的管控。对于他们这个团队会去从很多维度去对内容进行分类，去把我们规定出来的底线内容给识别出来，然后再根据业务去做折叠也好、删除也好等等后面的一些业务，大概是这样。
Okay, again, brief translation. So in Zhihu, AI has been widely used. So the first aspect, we will talk about technical details. So the main scenario of Zhihu using AI will be content creation. So first of all, we use very complicated algorithm to value whether a user can answer or cannot answer a particular question. Then such question will recommend it to the user. And also for the answers to be sent to the larger crowd so that answer can be soon created, then those also require very good algorithm. Then another aspect will be the community atmosphere that Zhihu maintains daily. We actually have a dedicated team to make sure there is no abusive language used everywhere, anywhere in our set.
Thank you. So another follow-up question for Mr. Li. Okay. I think a lot of people are concerned about privacy in AI. So because in order to enable statistical learning, such as the use of content distribution, as you talk about, we have to feed in a lot of data into the machine. So should we be concerned about privacy in this process of data collection and storage?
好的，就是其实从2016年开始，我们这个尤其在欧洲，其实这个 GPDR 就已经通过了。那通过以后，其实有2年的缓冲期，在 GPDR 通过的时候，知乎就已经关注到这个情况了，而且在当时在我们知乎上就有很多相关的问题和讨论，所以我们也是非常重视这件事情。从2016年开始，我们就有一个比较小的法务团队在进行这方面的研究，然后其实与此同时呢，咱们国内的用户隐私，就是官方对用户隐私的重视也是越来越强的，在这块我们能有非常切身的感受，所以知乎是在不断的进行相关的一些改进，对。
So privacy has always been a concern in Zhihu's business. So recently, GDPR has been passed in the EU, and this caused a huge discussion in Zhihu. And in 2016, we actually formed a legal team studying on the related issues on the legal side. Also, our users on Zhihu really care about privacy, so this is something that is core in our mind.
So thank you. So let's move on to another sector that was raised, and which is robotics. So Professor Li, where do you think China is currently positioned in the robotics field compared with the rest of the world?
Okay. First of all, the new generation of robots will have lots of big data and the AI in it. It is actually the connection for big data and the AI with the physical world. You have two domains for their application, the internet and also the physical world. And that also includes many things from home robots, industry robots, autonomous driving, or whatever, right? So you need both the hardware, software, data, and the application. And as I just mentioned, that to getting hardware together with software, big data to work is lots of work. And especially for new domains of application, that is hundreds or even thousands of iterations are needed. And that is where China, especially the Greater Bay Area, has a particular advantage. Like for example, if you are now here in UK or in Oxford, if you want to make something, that is very difficult. However, if you go to the Greater Bay Area within 5 kilometers, you get all the components, you get all the supply chains to turn your ideas into reality. So the market, the supply chain, and also the capital, the humans, so that is going to really make a huge difference, not just for China market, but also globally.
Can I add one sentence
Sure,
to what Professor Li has said? Because it is so important. We live in the age where technology is converging together. You can't do robotics without computer science. You can't do genetics without other things. Nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, all converging together. And they have to work together. This is complicated, but in a place like the Greater Bay Area, in a place like Cambridge and Oxford, we have the elements to put together. But let me also remind you all that people are involved. Robotics doesn't mean people are not involved. And unless we have the passion to communicate and connect, and I'm going to give you a new word. Connectivity is important, but why not practice connectricity? Put energy into your connectedness and take the initiative always and connect with the other people. What Professor Li told you about how they're developing what they do in the Greater Bay Area to enable entrepreneurs to learn how to put around themselves the team that starts a company, this is dramatic. This is the way that R&D costs money. R&D doesn't always mean you have a product. You need innovation and R&D, you need entrepreneurship, you need connectivity and connectricity.
Yep. And like speaking of connectricity, it actually reminds me of something about how we connect with machines and robots. That leads me to the domain of social robots, so that are robots that interact with human beings. And I've noticed that that's something that is still not quite popular in China right now. So Professor Li, can you tell us why this is the case and whether social robots will be the big next thing?
There are actually a lot of companies, startups, and also research and even education programs in this area. And the people perhaps are not aware of it because it is still in the very earliest stage. Like Alan just said, everything takes time. All those things started perhaps only a few years back. And perhaps 20 or 30 years from now, you will see that robots, social robots with people will emerge, soon. Yeah.
Sure.
我补充2句啊，这个问题在我看来，主要还是因为现在这个 NLP 的技术确实还是比较早期，这确实是有瓶颈。我们在 NLP 这个领域里面，现在最有挑战性的，我们从语义这个层面去理解和生成的问题都是比较难的，现在还没有很好的突破。一旦有了突破以后，相关的应用我觉得就会很快，对。所以这个就跟我在我刚才演讲里面说的那个观点是一致的，就是我们的基础研究是上层应用的一个源泉，这个基础研究不能突破的话，上层应用其实是很难有进步的。对。
So I want to add a few sentences on this. I think a key bottleneck is NLP technology. It's still at early stage. The key issue is the semantic understanding. I think we still need lots of foundation research to push this boundary.
Okay, sure. At this point, I want to make sure that Ms. Liu also pitches in. So we've talked a lot about the prospects of AI and robotics, and I'm sure that they're very attractive among investors right now. But do you think that they will continue to be this attractive over the next 5 years?
首先就是，其实这么多年来，就是每年在中国基本上早期投资都有一个主题，然后 AI 其实是16年被提出来比较热，然后进入一个就基本上所有 AI 的企业，我们看到这个原来早期的项目基本上2-3千万、3-5千万的估值，后面就是哪怕提出这个 idea， 或者说他是这个 computer science 或者是电子系学习的学生出来，基本上叫价都在1个亿以上1个亿到10个亿哈。然后大家也看到这个 AI 迅速的进入了一个高估值的阶段，实际上就是我觉得。任何一个行业，因为刚才我其实 PPT 里面有一个技术曲线的发展阶段，在萌芽期 AI 已经有很多年了，但是因为各方面的这个基础设施和要素还不具备，所以一直没有进入一个快速的发展阶段。那在16年，大家这个从这个 AlphaGo 出来之后，然后大家开始对这个充满期待之后，其实是进入了一个快速的这个我们叫快速的 bubble 的阶段，快速的泡沫期。那在这个泡沫期呢，之后实际上是一个很长时间的沉淀期，所以我们现在看 AI 的技术，实际上只是刚刚开始，还有很多跟应用需要结合的这种技术还没有被开发出来。就刚才李总也提到说，像 NLP、像视觉、像听觉，这都是刚刚开始我们感知到的这些数据。当然还有很多情感的感知数据，像我们看很多项目，它是做这个脑电的数据的，然后做肌肉电数据的，还有很多这个做情感分析的。如果把这些加上，然后这些数据产生的模型能够被用到具体的应用场景下，这样不断的迭代，我觉得至少还有5到10年的时间。所以实际上它是一个进入泡沫期，但是需要5到10年去沉淀的这样的一个技术。对于它的未来，我觉得还是非常有信心的，因为从我们过去的每一代技术的发展来看，上一代的信息化技术如果进一步升级迭代的话，一定是更加智能、更加有情感化、更加符合人性的这样的技术发展，才能帮助人们产生更多的价值。所以在这个方面上 ，AI 一定是不管我们提到很多 topic 也好 ，AI 一定是在未来非常重要的一项技术，因为它是一个基础技术，它能够渗透到各种行业里边去，帮助我们更加智能化、更好的这样的去更有效率的去生活。所以在这个角度上，我觉得还是未来的5年、10年，一个是有信心，另外一个还是需要一段的时间去发展的。
So for any early stage investment, there are several periods. So for AI, from 2016, AI becomes so hot after AlphaGo, huge success. Then that went into a period of bubble, which we call that is the high period of bubble, which is high evaluation stage. But so easily we can see companies with evaluation between £2 million to £5 million. And if you are a student from CS background, usually you can get £0.1 billion evaluation. But after the bubble period, usually we need a long period of calming down to develop the foundation research, such as the ones that Mr. Li has mentioned, also on vision, on emotion, speech analysis, as well as you need to find some applications to apply those technology. And the final point that I want to mention is about we have to make AI more human. So in conclusion, I think AI will still be the core technology for the next 5-10 years.
If I may add one sentence,
Yes, sure.
I think we should be very careful about the use of terminology. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. What does it really mean? It means a different thing probably to most of you than it means to me. These are tools. They are areas of technology that we must selectively use for the good of mankind in different ways. You know, I meet a lot of young people, especially from China, studying finance and economics, and they say to me, but artificial intelligence will replace us. You won't need people. And I say, hey, we don't know what artificial intelligence can do yet. We're in the beginning of artificial intelligence. When I was young, computers were invented. And everybody said, no, the computers will replace all the jobs. What happened? The computer industry created more jobs than any industry ever in the history of the world. So I think we can talk at the cocktail party artificial intelligence, machine learning. It is something that needs to be very, very carefully thought about and used selectively for the good.
Sure. And so on the note of people, let's move on to a topic that Ms. Liu talked about, which is the most important thing that drives our technological growth, that is like human capital. So I would like to pose another quick question to the panel. And so in one word, can you name the most important skill you think our next generation of technological talents should have? So maybe this time we can start with Mr. Li.
The ability to raise questions, especially on Zhihu.
Professor Li.
To envision what is not there, do whatever to make it happen.
Okay.
I'm going to go again to my area. I'm going to genomics, to the most appropriate use of new genetic information for the good and not the bad.
For the good.
我觉得是快速适应、快速学习吧。
Adaptation.
Adaptation. Okay, so we've heard 4 very important skills, and my question for Professor Li right now is that, then do you think that currently in China, our technological students have all these skills?
Not yet.
Not yet.
And we are working on it.
Okay, sure. So maybe you can tell us about what are the major challenges you face in trying to cultivate these traits among Chinese students?
Just like Alan said, when Deng Xiaoping started the reform, he had lots of challenge. But he found out a innovative method to solve the problem, which is with the creation of the special economic zone in Shenzhen. And today we need to do similar thing by creating lots of education special zone to try out new ideas and the new method.
Okay. Yeah. So besides education model, I think that Mr. Li also touched on the idea of basic research. And so what do you think China can do more to promote basic research?
这个问题，其实就像我说的，其实只有中国在基础学科的研究上处于一个比较早期阶段，但是呢，其实是一个快速爬坡的阶段，因为我刚才在这个演讲里面介绍到的几个工作，都还是在整个我们的国际上也算是比较前沿的一些进展，只不过现在这些进展呢还是处于点状的，它没有全面的铺开，还不够系统，我还是比较看好我们的整个基础学科的一个进展。
So right now, China is still at early stage of foundational R&D research. But it's also a fast climbing period. So we have like several points of world-leading academic work, but we need to make it entire surface.
Yeah, can I also
just
to add again that, you know, we heard from speakers, China is doing a lot of research. More and more papers are being published. Tsinghua and one or two other universities in China are definitely as good as any in the world for research. But a lot of others have to catch up yet. But one of the things that interests me and interests my colleagues here is the translation of research into a business. And it's the translational gap that Professor Li is talking about filling, you know? So you have a fantastic research idea. How do you turn it into a business? And our research here shows that it's the translational gap, the early gap. Later on, when it's a proven technology, the big companies will put money into it, but they won't while it's risky. So how we deal with that first step from the lab into a prototype and then into something real, the translational gap is where we need more investment and more education.
Okay, so let's stick with the idea of a translational gap. And so I think that on this area, perhaps Ms. Liu can also comment, because you have a lot of experience with basically this process of technology commercialization. How do you turn a promising technology into something that's tangible and the market can use? So maybe you can tell us, what is the biggest obstacle that these startups face in the process of technology commercialization?
实际上刚才非常同意艾伦讲的哈，就是在中国的话，这个基础科学的研究，包括很多课题的研究，其实我们投入的经费是非常多的。从产业上、从学校上、从研究机构上，包括人才的培养上，是非常非常多的。但是在过去的这个发展阶段下，第一是从市场上来讲没有这样的就是高精尖的需求，第二是我们更追求快速的发展。所以在这样的一个背景下，整个基础科学转化到市场上的这个过程是非常困难的。那我们清华呢有很多，每年差不多2万多件知识产权这样的专利，但是哪些专利最后能够成为一个有商业价值的这样的创业企业，这个其实是非常非常少的，可能都不到1%。你像每年我们看到的这个创业企业，大概就是不到1000家从清华出来的。然后真正能成功的可能都不到20-30家，所以它转化效率是非常低的。那在这个过程中，实际上我们一直在努力。它有几个，刚才说会面临到什么样的挑战和问题，其实有几个比较关键的问题。第一，就是在中国做基础研究的时候，可能更多的都是从科学的角度去提出问题，而不是从实践和技术跟市场结合的角度去提出问题。所以我们呢，也在这个企业发展的过程中，实际上是更多的去链接产业，让产业去提出市场上最多的需求。因为很多学生和老师，他有技术，但是他也不知道这个技术将来能在哪些产业里去结合。所以我们会在产业里、市场上找到更多的 idea， 或者是能跟这些技术去结合的点，帮他们去链接。这是第一。第二呢，实际上在这个科学家或者是高层次人才发展创业的过程中，实际上面临最大的一个问题就是他们这个管理，包括怎么去跟随企业一起成长，怎么去培养自己的战略的眼光这方面其实也是非常欠缺的。所以我们在这个科学家包括学生校友创业的时候，首先在学校里边就做了一个课程，对他进行创业知识的教育。那创业不仅仅需要技术，需要你把技术变成一个产品，需要你把产品卖到市场上去，需要把这个卖到市场上的转化为收入，也同时需要控制成本，让这个收入变成利润，然后让这个生意可持续发展。那它是一个这个整个的链条，不是我有了技术就可以创造一切。所以在这个观念的改变上，然后大家对创业的这个决心，包括长久的耐心方面，实际上都需要做很多的，无论是知识的教育、实践的教育，还有给他提供很多平台、很多资源包括产业的、市场的、资本的资源，来帮助他发展。那这个其实是我们这20多年一直在做的事情，也 逐步在探索怎么能够把它体系化去做。这也是我们为什么会在全球搭建这样一个网络，然后来帮助各种各样的它有各种优势的这样的创业者。比如说在英国，可能生命科学这个领域非常强，那在中国它有非常广大的市场。我们怎么通过我们这样的一个创新平台和网络，能够帮助有不同优势的人去交流它的价值？我觉得这也是一个非常重要的点。
First of all, I really want to agree with Alan that we have huge funding going to R&D, but there are some limitations in the past. So first of all, there isn't huge demand for those high-tech innovations. And secondly, market always eager for fast growth. So like some foundational research are ignored. So in Tsinghua University, every year we have 20K patents, but the conversion rate into actual enterprise and actual product is less than 1%. There are some key questions that need to be answered. So first of all, like in foundational research, usually the questions are raised from scientific background, but not actually from a practice point of view. So the first thing we want to do at TusStar is we want to build a link to industry and market for our entrepreneurs. And secondly, we help them to manage their business. Help our entrepreneurs to grow with their business and build a big vision for the big picture. There are courses in the university that we teach the new mindset that a technology can go to a product and then later on produce income and also bring in sustainability in the long term. We want to emphasize this is a chain process. It's never just a single point stage thing. Yes.
Can I make one small point again? There is very good published research on this examination of the translational gap, published for the UK government a few years ago. It's not just money. It's skills, it's facilities, it's a whole load of things. But there has been some good research. And the British government invested 250 million after one report showing that we need a special kind of innovation center for a special early stage of the life of the technology company. So anyone wants, I will send the reports to the organizers. Anyone wants it, you can get it.
Sure, no problem.
我也再补充一点，我能再补充一点观点吗？
好，很快可以。
好，快速的说一下啊，就是刚才两位提的都很好，然后我想在这边再说一下，就是这个咱们的突破也得分，它的创新是突破性的创新还是改进型的创新？如果是改进型的创新的话，这里面还有一个坑，就是我们知道要去一个新技术要去迭代一个旧技术的时候，它需要考虑的是这个新技术相对于旧技术的优势以及切换成本。很多时候大家去做一个创业的时候，可能会忽略到这个切换成本这件事情，然后就掉坑里面了。这个可能是特别要注意的事情。
So there is one point to note. So when we talk about technology breakthrough, there are two things that we need to consider. Whether the breakthrough is an upgrading service or upgrading stage or is it a new creation stage. But either way, we need to consider there is a conversion cost from the old to new technology. When the conversion cost is too high, then the change won't happen.
Okay, thank you. And so right now I would like to turn to something that's on everyone's mind, and that is unavoidably Huawei. And so in order for our audience to better understand our discussion, another quick question to the panel. In 3 words or less, can you tell me what 5G is? 3 words or less. This time, can we start with...
Next generation telecommunications.
Awesome, great.
Agree.
Monsieur?
提到5G，可能第一想到的就是看电影更快。
看电影 So watching movies, and then.
我说抽象一点，我觉得可能会是下一个创新的一个引爆器。
So the next catalyst for technology innovation.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So let's talk about Huawei, because discussions over Huawei's 5G technology has been drawing attention from all over the world. And we know that the US right now has been pressuring its allies into blocking the use of Huawei infrastructure in building its mobile telecom networks, citing national security claims. So I'd like to ask the panels, so what are your thoughts on these claims that this 5G technology from Huawei is threatening the national security of the West?
If I may, from a Western point of view, give you my balanced view, there are two particular concerns. One is a genuine concern of any country in the world that one company and one nation in any nation in the world becomes so dominant in a technology like telecommunication that it could use its dominance in a difficult way. Not in an illegal way, but people don't want to feel they are totally dependent on one company. That's one thing. And Huawei is way ahead on 5G. Maybe even into 6G. We don't know yet. Don't ask me what 6G is. But the other side of it is the I would say, the rather evil, suspicious side of things, generated by certain presidents of certain nations, so we won't mention by name, that creates an atmosphere that I think doesn't do justice to what Ren Zhongfei and Huawei have achieved. And any company could be guilty of certain things, but I think that the world is sometimes, parts of the world, uses the wrong arguments. If they were honest and say, hey, Huawei is way ahead and we're worried about that, well, why not spend more money and catch up, catch up on the technology? But to try and indicate that there could be evil, there's no evidence. There is no evidence. The book I showed you, by the way, is worth reading. The book about Huawei, published 2 years ago. David de Kramer is a Judge Business School professor. So this is rumor, and there is no evidence yet that anything of the wrong kind has happened. So that's my balanced view. What we do about it is we say what we think, we stick by our principles. We are pleased to have Huawei in Cambridge and the UK. We think they are a great company, and they are being accused of certain things that I don't personally think are true. But we have to live with it, and we have to see our way through. Remember, though, the domestic market in China is very big. So they will survive and they will succeed. If you go to the Czech Republic, they love them. They love them. They don't have these rumors there.
All right, so we got a balanced point of view. Can we now get an insider's point of view?
那我先来说吧。对，因为其实知乎跟华为一样，都是一家 private 这个 company， 对吧？我们是一个私营公司。那我觉得这个华为的所有的动作，确实都应该是代表的是股东的利益，而不是国家意志。所以这个就是我们在这个一些这样的这个纠纷里面，大家提到的这个安全问题，确实我也非常认同 Alan 所说的，这个没有任何的证据啊。但是呢，这里面确实，刚才 Alan 讲的 concern 我其实挺赞同的。我认为这个事情其实根源就是我们要有更多的这个共同利益，然后让大家能够一起玩儿，那么可能这个问题就能够得到一个比较大的缓解。对。
So I really agree what Alan has said. I believe there is no evidence has shown for all the claims yet. Zhihu and Huawei are both private firms. So we think what our company does actually represent the benefits of our employees. It's nothing to do with the nation overall. And I think there is something that probably we should try to do from a world point of view, that is to create more mutual goals and benefits.
实际上就是补充几点，就是第一，我觉得任何一项技术的进步，它都是具有两面性的。就是我们看到很多技术在发展，给人类带来便利的同时，其实包括很多技术让人变得更懒啊，变得更没有效率啊，有很多这个技术它带来价值的同时，实际上它还是有一些这个可能的威胁的。所以现在的这个威胁可能是觉得来自于这个它本身是一个通信技术。但是我相信华为在这么多年来，它其实因为我跟这个华为的高管也非常熟悉，讨论过这个问题。其实他们在这个行业的发展的时候，是战略上是非常清晰的，而且非常专注。 这么多年来一直并没有说我要去垄断一个行业，或者是通过我所垄断的资源去做什么，而是更多的是通过技术的进步去给全世界带来什么。所以从这个角度上来讲，我觉得华为是一个非常伟大的公司，而且在中国这样的环境里边，它能有那么多 IP， 那么多人才去做这件事情，而且能把5G 做成一个下一代的技术，做那么多年的积累，成为现在在这个技术上的一个比较强的 leader， 我觉得这个是值得尊敬的。那同时它可能带来的威胁，哪项技术没有呢？你要在美国这么多这个大的公司，包括芯片的很多公司，它也是一家公司供全球的，包括很多生物技术的公司，它也是一家包括很多美国的药厂，它也是这个通过一些药的研发上边的壁垒来控制全球的市场资源。所以我觉得这个他们的初衷更多的是为了我们更好，而不是说通过这项技术去阻止我们什么。所以与其说去防止它这个技术带来的进步所带来的威胁更不如就是说，我们觉得更多的需要自己去努力去追赶。你有自己的技术，让这个技术不断的迭代，然后去产生进步，而不是说这个去产生让它停下来或者是做什么。所以我觉得从这个角度上来讲的话，我们要看这件事情到底是一个技术进步带来的问题，还是其他的问题。
So I want to emphasize that every technology progress has two sides. For example, AI is great, but sometimes it makes us lazy and cause inefficiency. So everything has potential risks. I know some colleagues at Huawei. I think what they have done is to contribute the technology growth in the world, and that deserves our respect. There are many monopolies, even from US, such as chips companies, medical businesses. They supply the world supply for, in those domains. For what Huawei has done, I think it's a great company, and we should always remember that.
I don't know too much, about this 5G or Huawei, or cannot comment too much. But I can provide perhaps a couple of examples from my understanding. So when drones being first developed by DJI, there were also lots of concerns, safety, security, to air travel, et cetera, all those issues, right? And there are also perhaps discussions of how you either regulate or even block this technology, not just from US, from China, from other places, right? But as a responsible company, DJI went ahead, to introduce a lot of measures so that the technology can best benefit users, the lots of sectors, and they, at the same time, minimize, or we cannot probably completely get rid of it, but to the best of our ability to minimize the negative side of the technology, and globally, consumers benefit from it. So that is one example. And the second example, perhaps, from history. Like, for example, in the 1800s, when the United States began to learn, and they then began to improve, and they then began to develop, emerge to be a leader in the technology sector. I'm sure that US companies may have the same experience as Huawei experienced today. Right? I'm sure UK may not be happy around that time about the emergence of US companies. But later on, US companies like IBM, like GE, they provide technology to also benefit customers in US and the UK and globally. And later on, the change of attitude even from the UK side.
Yeah, and ending this on a positive point, the UK now has a simple approach from the regulatory authority. They are presenting and saying, hey, we think that if we work with Huawei in a certain way, we can mitigate against anything we be wrong. And that's the way forward.
All right. And since we're running out of time, but I still have one last question for the panel, so maybe you can give me short answers. So from a very macro perspective, I want to know, what should a good technology leader be like, and why is it important for a country to aim to be a technology leader in the first place?
Say the question again. What's
okay, so what do you think a good technology leader should be like, and why is it important for a country to aim to be a good technology leader in the first place?
I give you a quick answer. It's a moving target and it's work in progress. So you may be the leader today, but you won't be the leader tomorrow. So a country should be aiming to be excellent in technology as befits the needs of the country, and keep up to date and be a leader for itself, not only to dominate.
我觉得是能够发现价值、实现价值这样的人。
So I think it's about discovering values and then realize them.
Agree. It just if we look at the history of Silicon Valley, one is disrupted or overcut by others. So you just have to be continue innovative and also be responsible to your customers.
我觉得 leader 是关键词啊，就是作为科技强国，首先要有足够的科研的实力和创新能力，这个是我觉得是必要条件。那作为 leader 的话，也得有 leader 的担当和眼界和包容性，我觉得这是最重要的。
I think the key word is actually the leadership. So as a tech leader in the world, you of course should have the capacity of good research and development. But at the same time, you also need to have responsibility for the entire world.
Okay, so before we open the floor to the questions, this is really the final question to the panel. And the last quick question. So is China the next tech leader? Yes or no? So who wants to go first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay, so on this high note, we'll open the floor to questions.
Good questions.
Sure. Can you try to speak your question in both English and Chinese when you're raising it? So maybe that lady who's raising her hand.
Thank you. Thank you for such great insights. So I'm a fashion merchandising student at London College of Fashion. And the biggest challenge for my industry is that to match the product drops with consumer demand. So it kind of frightens me that technology from the past is only able to replace labor-intensive jobs to now how it's taking big part in more complex jobs. So my question is that, do you think in 5 or 10 years, AI is going to fade into the background just like the way things are done, in the sense that no industry today has not been touched by technology? And my second question is that how as a young generation, how do we prepare ourselves for to remain competitive? Thank you.
So maybe, can you repeat your question in Chinese?
Yeah, I think her question is AI going to replace lots of jobs, right?
Yes, and how should we prepare for it?
I think I tried to give an answer to that earlier, that the answer is it will create different jobs. Your mind must be broad and wide, because when computers were invented, everyone said they would replace jobs, but they created jobs. So we have to be imaginative. I don't think AI, there may be some short-term difficulty, but longer term, it will create. my view.
I think I fully agree. You know, computers create a lot more new jobs.
Yes.
Just like steam engines create
Yeah.
a lot more new jobs. And the AI robotics are going to create a lot more new jobs.
Okay. Maybe the gentleman at the back.
对，我稍微补充一下，因为这个女
Thank
孩
you. Thank you for the talk.
Ms. Li wants to comment a bit, so can you hold off your
稍
question
微
for just
稍
a
微补
minute?
充一下哈，因为大家问到就是说 AI 会不会替代人类，我觉得这个刚才2位都回答了，因为任何一个技术的发展实际上是随着人类的意愿的，所以它更多的是去辅助人类，在它发展的过程中，我们也会控制这个进程。第二就是作为年轻人，我们怎么准备好迎接这个时代哈？刚才有一个这个问题，我觉得这个就是第一我们要拥抱新的技术，第二就是在这个技术和我们生活的价值上，我们怎么去找到一个平衡点，而不是说去遏制这个技术的发展。我觉得作为年轻人，因为我们现在这个时代，其实刚才我讲了适应性非常重要。为什么？因为技术的迭代和信息的迭代在这个时代是非常大的。在过去，可能就是比如说在牛津学习1000年以前，大家可能看书，现在呢，我们可能百度啊，可能 Google 就能得到很多知识。那在未来，如果智能可以做的东西之外，我们还能做什么？我觉得可能更多的是我们需要思考的问题，在这个过程中。
So I just want to add a few points. So first of all, technology is always developed to serve human. It follows humans' intention, what we want. So I always think we should embrace technology instead of stopping them. And I also want to emphasize the iterations of technology is so fast these days. In the past, when we learn knowledge from books, but these days it's internet. And what is beyond that? That is the question we should always think about.
We had a question in the back.
So I'm a DPhil student in Oxford, and I'm really happy to hear about the topic about Huawei here. I want to add a few words to discuss with Alan. So you mentioned the point that Huawei is restricted because it's taking a lead, it's dominating this industry. But actually, in my opinion, it's not. Huawei has created the American markets for years, and in Europe, for communication equipment, there are Cisco, the Ericsson, and they are a big player of this market for years. And for the smartphones, there are Apple and Samsung. But it's only Huawei that is treated like this, to be banned in several Western countries. Is this really the problem of the domination of Huawei, or is it just the politics?
I think that it's a problem of the domination of the United States, of the world.
Yeah, okay.
Seriously, I mean, the United States is threatening other countries that they shouldn't work with Huawei. And there's things in Canada and elsewhere. They're telling the European Union, you don't want to work with Huawei. When my company in Cambridge, our company Newell, was acquired by Huawei, the US came to the company and said, we will do no more business with you because you are now part of Huawei. So I don't think it's particularly the domination of Huawei, but it's the bullying of the United States, which can't bear not to be the number one.
Hope there's another American people here too.
I know it's political. This is geopolitics now. It's geopolitics.
Okay, sure.
然后我还想补充一点啊，就是我觉得人的成长是委屈撑大的哈。当这个我们面临别人的挑战的时候，实际上也是我们进步的一个非常好的机会。所以我觉得看我们去怎么看待这个问题。那在芯片方面，对我们进行这个进行一些措施之后呢，实际上大家看到无论是我们在技术的研发上、人才的培养上和基础设施的建设上，我们都投入了很大的精力，那使得这个关键性的技术行业能进入一个快速的发展阶段。那我觉得这个也是非常重要的一点，就是反正凡事都有两面性。在它遏制我们的时候呢，是因为我们发展的太快了。那在这个快的时候呢，我们应该怎么抓住这个机会啊，变得更强大？我觉得也是在座的各位需要努力的。
I just want to add a some points on this. So it's like human growth, personal growth. So unfair treatment can make people develop themselves faster. So it's the same for business as well. For example, what happened with the chip manufacturing industry, the great challenges actually create faster growth. So at the moment, it's a very interesting point for 5G technology as well. So there is a potential of us being stopped because fast growth, but maybe what we can do with this potential stopping point, and can we take it as an opportunity? I just want to emphasize everything has two sides.
Maybe we can take a question from the side. Okay, sure, we can hear.
May I ask a bit about implementing ethics into AI? Because I think in any discussion about tech leader, there's an inherent tone of competition, but Alan was saying, AI is something that's quite collaborative as well. And also from a strategic point of view, China is always saying about, this 人类命运共同体 sort of concept, which is sort of an ecosystem for the collective fate of humanity, right? So I think ethics in AI is sort of a watershed moment for us. If we navigate carefully, it should really embrace wisdoms of humanity, whereas if we're not careful, it could become the next battlefield almost, right, for different points of view. So what's the panelist' view about what we should be doing in this area? And also, is there really leadership in this field? And who should be leading this, really? Yeah.
Trying to crystallize the question to a simple one.
What should be done in implementing ethics, and is there leadership in this area?
In AI?
Yeah.
Ethics in AI, and who should lead the change?
Sorry?
So how do we implement ethics in AI, and who should lead the change if there is one?
I think it's as broadly based as computer science. When computers came, who should implement it? Now everyone is in a computer state of mind. That has taken a long time. So initially, a company, I imagine, will have to evolve an AI strategy, and the education system will have to embrace the new field. So we look ahead 20 years, and we don't know what we will see, but we know it will be different than today. So it's a very difficult question. I think my only advice would be try and read the best literature on the subject to keep pace with what the best companies are doing with it. But it's a very important question, but we don't have answer to all these questions.
我先补充一点，我觉得就是这个问题，其实从技术层面来讲，我个人是一个 AI 悲观论者，就是我不太认为 AI 是能够达到那个 tipping point， 或者说在 near future， 我觉得很难实现这一点。那么你提的这个问题，我个人可能会觉得，现在大家对于大数据、对于个人隐私的这样一个重视，反而可能是这个问题的一个最现实的一个状态。对。
So I just want to comment on the technical point of view. Personally, I actually hold a pessimistic view of AI. I think the current attention from the public on those privacy, security probably actually shows us the potential reality and risk AI can bring to us.
Our cameraman?
Well, as you might have seen, that I'm a live streamer here. But actually, I'm also a DPhil student in automation in Oxford. Now, I want to ask a question about 5G technology. Apart from the faster speed, which means from hundreds of megabps to gigabps, we also can see that 5G, we will also, from 4G to 5G, we will also have lower latency, which means from like 100 milliseconds down to 1 millisecond, and better connectivity, which means we have higher frequency spectrum. And the question is, in your mind, from your previous experience, what will be the revolutionary emerging services or products provided with 5G technology, just in your mind? For example, like areas of drones, or like better algorithm, AI thing, and so on. Thank you.
我觉得5G 本身是通讯技术的一种升级，其实它也不是一个突破性的技术，只不过说在速度上、在规模化上、在效率上更高。所以从未来它的应用上，就我们可以想象，比如说以前没有飞机的时候，人们怎么远距离沟通？现在中国有高铁之后，很多事情可以在1天内完成之后，就有很多市场出来了。当然，刚才我也讲，可能最现实的是我们看电影更快了。但是回到现在技术发展，比如说我们刚才没有提到的，就是智能制造上边，实际上5G 呢，它在远端，尤其是端口方面的存储和上载更快了，所以我们的大数据、我们的云计算和我们 AI 更有用武之地了。在这样的一个基础技术的支持下，实际上我们可以不断的去优化现有的一些应用，同时在未来有很多行业上的场景也会不断的被优化。比如说在智能制造里边，现在我们可能是下订单，下完订单之后，工厂制定计划之后呢，然后去完成。但现在我们有了物联网之后，尤其是有5G 通信技术之后，可能这边客户需要什么，那边能制造出来，然后很快就通过 supply chain 就完成了。也可能在机器通信的过程中会实现更高的效率。所以我觉得无论从这个终端的客户上来讲，还是从某些产业上来讲，5G 这个技术会带来很多颠覆性的变化，但是本身这个技术并不是颠覆性的。
So I think 5G is an upgrading technology. So it will create opportunities in two aspects. So it might upgrade existing applications, or it might create new opportunities. So as I said, the easiest way to imagine what 5G can bring us is about faster streaming of movies. But one thing I want to add is, for example, smart manufacturing. So 5G can allow faster remote storage and uploading speed. And this brings tons of opportunities for manufacturing industry. So in the past, the process of manufacturing requires discussions between multi-agents, and then design the thing, and then send everything, agree production. But these days, probably everything can be synchronized, and this will increase efficiency.
I can give you one example quickly of a product that embraces physical technology, hard technology, soft technology. It also relates to artificial intelligence. A way of getting transmissions from the brain with a physical device that you put outside, and you get the information from the brain, you get neurological data. It goes to artificial intelligence, all sorting out all different things. Algorithms are developed that give you cognitive information about psychology and how the person is thinking. So there is a mind-blowing possibility for the combination of technology, and that would involve robotics too. Mm-hmm. I know we have short time, but that's an example. That's a real company. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah. So we have limited time. Let's take a few more questions. How about the gentleman in green, like at the back?
It's amazing what people invent.
Hello, I'm Matt. I am a second-year Chinese studies student at Durham University. And I want to ask, so innovation on any scale requires freedom of access to information, both within countries and looking at other countries' innovation and information. So do you think in order for China to continue developing the technological sector, the government will have to decrease or loosen their control on censorship? And if you want to, Mandarin, 如果你要创新，你要看更多的资料，那你觉得中国的政府要低下他们的审查，还是remove 他们的防火墙？
So in order for China to continue to innovate, does the Chinese government have to scale up or scale down censorship? 这是资料审查的问题。
就是为了加速生产，需不需要
scale up or scale down censorship？
需要增强还是减小这个资料审查、信息审查？
如果我们要继续去 innovate 的话，
减少什么？
资讯审查。
I think a Chinese speaker should answer that question.
他可能这个碰的
减少什么？
信息审查就是
资讯的审查，
资讯检测等等，就是
censorship。
敏感词控制。
是防止媒体去报道一些敏感的话题。
就是舆论的控制是吧？
对对对。
Is he worried about censorship, or worried that there is to be, or there is not to be? I didn't quite.
Would you like me to explain?
Scale up or scale down?
Yeah.
Would you like me to
Do
explain?
our speakers have any thoughts?
Let me just let me try to answer the question. Of course, each country has certain regulations on information flow, on security, right? And so that's on one side, but the degree to which it will hamper or stimulate information, that the government has to be wise and they make clear decisions. And from the innovation part, we all know that innovation arises from collision, from interaction, from brainstorming of many, many different minds, different culture, different sectors, right? So innovation is greatly stimulated if there are free flow of information.
Yeah, let me just make one other point about this. It's not just the government that is in the middle of this argument. In these days of social media, I was at a lecture in Cambridge recently by a professor of politics from Cambridge, and he said, I think, he said, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook is more dangerous than Donald Trump. Because social media can be bad. Not all entrepreneurship is well-intentioned. A lot of entrepreneurship is evil, trying to dodge the law. So I don't think we should... Censorship is what it is in governments, and it comes up and it goes down. But don't forget that fake news and bad news and wrong information in this age of social media, and I think we have a bigger problem in the West with social media misuse than you have in China, where the government may control it rather more tightly, and maybe too tightly, you may think, but maybe it's not such a bad thing, because here, my grandchildren are exposed to things on social media that worries me. Not from the government, but from other sources.
All right, so unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's panel. And we thank all the speakers for participating. We thank Shu for translating. We still don't know if China will be the next tech leader, but as Alan said at the very beginning, we'll only have to be patient and time will tell. So thank you for participating.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to keep in touch with you. Yeah. And with all of you, yeah. Well, I'm already in touch with your organization, so, you know.
Thank you, all of you.
No, the professor of politics said that publicly.
Yeah.
That Mark.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean.
Everything is like culture and education.
And these guys are doing it all for money, you know.
Yeah. You need policy
Okay.
and you need